Hello and welcome back to Serious About Rugby League's podcast. Today I am joined with Ben and Paul, and we're going to probably tackle one of our hardest podcasts today, being that there's no real criteria for this podcast. We're just going to talk about some of the best players in Super League. The only criteria that is known is that they have to be playing in Super League right now. Okay, that's the only criteria. And we're going to pick out our top 10 Super League players. So it can be based on form this season, it can be based on form in 2012, 2006, if they were still playing back then. So it's literally wide open playing field, which means that there's going to be a lot of mixture, I imagine, in our top 10s. We've each picked a top 10, we don't know what each other's top 10. We're going to try and each sort of break down our top 10s, and then we'll hopefully come to some sort of agreement by the end of the video, and hopefully have a top 10 for Serious About Rugby League, and then obviously we want to compare that to your guys' top 10. So we're going to jump straight in with number 10. So this is the 10th best player in Super League, based on any form, but a current player. I'll throw it out there because I feel that man's probably a more modern one. I feel like a lot of these players might be based on form in previous years. This guy, for me, is very much based on form this year and last season. And that's Oliver Gilder, the Wigan centre. I think he's been immense since he came in for the Wigan club, and he's been able to sort of build that partnership with Joe Burgess, and a lot of what Joe Burgess has done, and obviously he's another immense player for Wigan, and a lot of what he's done for Wigan. He scored 11 tries in 12 games this season, but a lot of that comes through Oliver Gilder and assists from Oliver Gilder, and again a lot of tries from Gilder comes from assists from Burgess. So I think Gilder is probably the better of the two on that left edge, and is the reason why he's sort of pipped Burgess to the post.
Yeah, I actually put him in my top 10. He was very close. We were actually watching the Wigan Leeds game on Friday, and I said to you, he had a quiet game actually, but I said to you, like, I really rate him, and I think he should be England's centre come the end of the season again, because he was terrific against the Kiwis. But yeah, in 10th I've actually gone for Paul McShane. Now this is controversial, because when I was looking and I was building up my top 10, I was starting to think I'm only getting players from certain clubs. Now I'm not saying I've put Paul McShane in because I didn't have any Castleford players in, but it kind of did sway my decision.
You put him in because you hadn't have any Castleford players.
Yeah. Well, obviously there was the whole thing last year, like it became a bit of a Mickey take, didn't it, about him not being nominated for Man of Steel and whatnot, and not really being mentioned.
And Cass not having any Dream Team players either.
Yeah, of course.
Which was a big controversial point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, in terms of the way he's improved, because he's had a lot of setbacks in his career, especially early on, but he's come back, and obviously at Castleford he's been outstanding, and I just think he's probably not going to get in the England squad, because I've actually got a couple more hookers on this list, so that's the reason why. But yeah, I think obviously he's a very crafty player, good kicking game, very smart, can control the game, and I think he's one of the reasons why, with all the injuries, Castleford is still up there really.
Yeah, this is, I like this, because I think a lot of the other teams we've picked, I think we've pretty much had the same team. I think with the criteria, but I do think we're going to have a little bit of a difference here. I think we're all going to look at this a different way. I've gone for, I've basically gone for someone has to be, for all they've got to be playing in the Super League, they've got to be performing in the Super League now at this moment in time. Which, for instance, someone like Gareth Ellis, who is in Super League but has got a tremendous track record over the years. I think I've kind of gone 50-50 on the now and in the past. One I'll start with is Danny Kermond at Wakefield. I'll probably one from left field here, but maybe it's not based on his Twitter feed, which can be a bit, which has been a bit controversial at times. But you know what, I think Captain Wakefield, he's been in the dream team. He's a very strong tackler, a consistent performer, a club that always tends to overachieve. Wakefield, I think. That's a bit of a bad run at the moment, but he's always been part of that. He's scored important tries, like I say, made important tackles. He's always been, I think for me, the standout player in their team when he's playing well. and a pretty much talisman for the fans as well. I think I must admit I've always liked Danny Kerman, and I've always liked to fit him into a team somewhere. And I think I've managed to do it with this one. I'm quite happy with Danny Kerman, but I think I'm probably going to struggle to get him in the final 10 when we pair him together.
We'll have to get to that conversation,
Yeah,
but it's an interesting start.
I do like. I mean, I'm really pleased I managed to get a player that kind of player into my not my team, into my 10.
It's interesting because that's three very, very different players. It's not even like they're remotely similar, and are all in for sort of different reasons. Obviously, McShane's consistency, Gildart more recently, and then Kurtman, which I'm a bit. It didn't even come to my mind. However, like he's a fantastic player, but it's just one of them that where did that even come from? Sort of
I think it's Snapchat you're referring to as well, not Twitter.
Well, okay, yeah, but
move on anyway.
I think it's a strong position, isn't it? I think we're well suited. Yeah. We are well suited where he plays, but
fair enough.
I'm happy with that.
We'll go on to our ninth picks. Ben, I'll come to you first. Who have you got number 9?
Now, I've probably gone... I would think this player's in both your top 10s, but I might be wrong. I've gone for Tommy Makinson. Now, he's actually the only winger in my top 10, but for me, he's actually consistently the best winger in the league, I think. I mean, we're going to talk about his performances for England, winning the Golden Boot, which obviously got a lot of talk, but I just feel like for a winger, what you want in a winger is just got everything. When you think of a winger, a top quality winger, I just think of everything Tommy Makinson's got. Speed, he makes great yardage out of their own end, and he's probably the best finisher in Super League as well. So, I've gone for Tommy Makinson.
I've not got any wingers in my top 10, so that clears it up. Tommy Makinson's not in for me. And we had this conversation before. I feel like you can look at it as two ways. You can go, right, I'm going to make a top 10 and I'm going to have at least one person from a position or at least one person from like every club, or you can just go your favourite 10 players. And I've just gone for my favourite 10 players, which are sort of positionally biased to two positions because they're the two positions I enjoy the most in the game. So, which I think that's just down to opinion. My number 9 is Remy Casti, who I feel like isn't talked about nearly enough as he should be. He's been an absolute servant to the Catalans club, as he has to the French international team, and he's still going strong, and he's having an immense season this season. Obviously, Catalans are doing a lot better on a more consistent basis, which is fantastic for the club, and it's exactly what we wanted to see from Catalan. But he's the guy that's been there from the start. Realistically, he's the guy that has come through the really tough seasons with the club, the £1 million game, and then has sort of been there as well when they've been at the top of the game, winning the Challenge Cup, and this season into the top 4. So I feel like Remy Casti is deserved of a place, and it makes my number 9 spot.
For me, I'm quite pleased Ben mentioned Makinson, because I was torn between two. Again, we're going back to the criteria. I think for the last 18 months, I think Makinson probably has been the best winger in Super League. Performances last winter for England were incredible. But for me, I actually was very torn between him, but I just went for Jermaine McGilvray at Huddersfield. He has been a top try scorer. He's consistently performed over the years. He's remained very loyal to the Huddersfield club. I think other big clubs have been in for him. I think it's probably going to be a decision. I know Sean hasn't got a winger in his team, but I think Sean's probably going to have to pick between the two here. But which
is a very difficult choice.
Absolutely. I think the World Cup he was outstanding for England. One of the first names on the team sheet. It always turns up. I think Huddersfield have been very inconsistent over the years. They've had a few really good seasons. Obviously, the year that they managed to finish top of the table, and they've also struggled as well. I think, but no matter how well that team are playing, he's always performed. He's always turned up, and like I say, he's remained very loyal to the club. So I went for McGilvray, but like I said, it was a straight toss. I actually wrote Makinson down and crossed it out, put McGilvray. I was really torn, but yeah, just picked going on past not just the last 18 months, going over the years. I just picked McGilvray.
Yeah, I think they're both fantastic wingers. I think Makinson obviously there for his maybe more of his last third attack, sort of that, the way that he can play centre or wing, the way that he can sort of manoeuvre defenders and get around and either set up his winger, or if he's playing on the wing, score elaborate tries that get the same sort of line. Whereas McGilvray is more of the powerhouse winger that
Yeah.
he will get metres from the back, and then if he's given the ball 10 metres out, he's going to score a try, which is it's actually a really tough decision. As you say, I think if I was going to pick the England team now on form, I'd pick Makinson. I think he's the best winger in the league right now. Based on this criteria, Jermaine McGilvray he's back at his best, and he has been a great servant to the Huddersfield club for a number of years. So that's a really, really tough choice between two great wingers. We'll go on to number 8. I'll come over to you, Paul. You go first this time.
Well, I'll do this very quickly, so we've already been there. But Remy Cassidy made my team. Again, it was another one. I was very close. I had Chris Hill down originally, but for all the reasons you said before, like I say, it's great to see players come through the Catalans club, and I just picked Remy Cassidy over Chris Hill, but like we've been there, so we'll move on to Ben.
Well, yeah, this is going to get... Well, it's already interesting, but it's going to get even more interesting now. So I've gone for Sean O'Loughlin at number 8. Now, I think if we did this 5 years ago, he'd have definitely been in the top 3, possibly even top. Obviously, over the last few years, he's not played as much as you would expect, but despite his age now, I'd still have him in the top 10 best players in the league, and he's probably still Wigan's most important player. So, yeah, I had to include him, and he's going to stay as England captain, it looks, and I think you've got to... Well, you don't have to, but I felt inclined to put the England captain in the top 10, but not just for that, obviously his abilities as well, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have him higher.
I think it's safe to say both me and Paul will probably have him in our top 10 somewhere. Yeah. I won't tell you where, but I can imagine you, as Wigan fans, you can imagine that he's in the top 10 somewhere. But at number 8 is a very low position.
I just think right now he's the...
And that's... It's sort of the interesting thing about the criteria is that you can base it on now, or you can base it on...
Yeah.
And
well, I just think what we're picking is like the best players in the league, and I feel like there's better players now than Sean O'Loughlin.
Yep.
Okay.
Whereas a few years ago there probably wasn't.
Okay. I've gone for somebody that probably isn't making massive waves this season, but has made massive waves in Super League over the course of his career. I'm sure you guys have got him written down somewhere. It might not be in the top 10, but you surely got him written down somewhere. That's Danny Maguire, obviously of Hull KR now. I think it's fair to say that I'm basing this more on his time at Leeds than I am at his time at Hull KR, but given that he is still playing in the league and he's still a massive influence for the Hull KR team, that it's well deserved of a place in the top 10 because he's still one of the top 10 players probably to ever play in the division, and then still playing the game now.
I haven't got him in the top 10. That's going to surprise you.
Yeah, it's gonna surprise
feel he obviously won the Harry Sunderland Trophy in 2017, which is not that long ago. When he went to Hull KR, I thought Hull KR would improve a lot more than what they have. Now, I'm not putting that down to him. I just thought it would have had a bigger impact there. I almost sometimes forget he plays for Hull KR. I don't mean to insult him because he's probably one of the best players that's ever played in Super League, but I just... In my own head, when he left Leeds, he retired.
Yeah. Fair enough.
For me on Maguire, it's the same. I'll shock you, Ollie. I haven't got O'Loughlin in my team. I actually wrote him down, but I'll show somebody else who I'll tell you in a bit. Because I'm. Let's be honest. He's going to get in anyway because these two have picked him. But I have weighted it this season to 50% and 50% on the pass.
Yeah.
So like to Maguire, and then also because I didn't want to cross over between the team I picked for the greatest ever Super League players and the team that in a few weeks' time we'll pick the dream team. I didn't want to basically just pick the players off them too. So I wanted to try to look at this from a different angle. I have picked the guy that we're on 8th now. That the guy I've picked now isn't replacement for O'Loughlin. I'll explain that in a couple of more picks. But the guy I've got for 8th is if I was picking him as a team now, like I said, with Mason, who'd be a lot higher than 8th. But I've got Jake Connor in there basically because obviously it's still relatively his career's still ongoing and he's got a lot more to give. But I think we saw on Thursday night what a talent, and obviously for England again in New Zealand last year, the guy can literally do anything. He could play anywhere along the back line. I know we all know where he wants to play. Some quite humorous comments from Lee Radford about that at the weekend as well. he's got everything, hasn't he? I think he's got the actual potential to wind up the Aussies when we play them in tests. He does it in Super League, he does it in international. So I've got Jake Connor in there. Like I say, if we're judging the team on now, no doubt he'll be a massive consideration. But the dream team will be a lot higher. But basically, putting the two criteria together, I've got him in at number 8.
Number 7.
Number 7, sorry. It's number 7. Okay, yeah.
So
number 7. Number 7. I've got him number 7.
Yeah. Remy Castille was at number 8, just to clarify that. But Danny Maguire was my pick and Sean O'Loughlin was yours.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 7, Jake Connor. And that's another one that I highly considered for this list because I feel like, basing it on, especially the last year, Jake Connor has been absolutely immense for Hull. And I'm sure that if he stays at Hull in 5 years' time, we'll be talking about him in Super League all time, so he'll be mentioned amongst those lists because he is that good and he's improving that much over time. At number 7 is another sort of older player that only qualifies for this list as of like a month ago when he came out of retirement.
Oh wow.
I'm going to go for Gareth Ellis. I feel like obviously his early career was absolutely immaculate. But not only that, when he came back to Super League and was at Hull during the Challenge Cup triumphs, he was so important to that team and the way that team moved. He's been mentioned a few times on our podcast. I think we don't have to keep talking about him. We know exactly what he's all about. But with him being a current player, having come out of retirement, he qualifies for this list, and I think he's worthy of a place in the top 10.
Interesting. I feel like the criteria is going to balance itself out, I feel, because you've gone very much looking at the bigger picture. I'm not saying I've been a bit narrow-minded, but my next pick is actually probably gets in on both criteria really, because I've gone for Darrell Clarke. Now, at Castleford he won the Man of Steel and got that big move to Warrington, and he struggled for a few seasons, I feel, but now he's just coming to his own, and when I was looking and picking these players, I might sound a bit crazy, but I was actually looking at Warrington's team and I thought, if you compare their team now with Wigan, even Leeds, some of the teams below them, they don't actually have that good a team. I feel like we'll probably mention one of the other players later on, but I feel like Darrell Clarke is one of the reasons they're still up there, because he gets some such good go forward. And I know many hookers are clever in the league and they pick the right times to run, but I always just feel like Darrell Clarke never misses an opportunity to run. Like, if there's a slight opportunity, I feel he's that quick, he's going to get his side such good go forward. And again, a bit like Paul McShane, he's very clever, and I'd always have him in the England squad if it were up to me. He struggled to get in past few seasons, but yeah, I've gone for Darrell Clarke at 7.
I actually think that Darrell Clarke is by a considerable margin Warrington's best player. I know people will disagree because as you've mentioned, there's probably some that will come up later that people maybe rate higher, but for me, I think Clarke is, based on this season alone, is Warrington's best player. Obviously that's not the criteria we're going with here, but based on this season alone, if we were going to pick a dream team, he's probably the best number 9 in the league right now. He's been immense for Warrington. Just a couple of games that he's played against Wigan over the past month, if he wasn't in the team, Wigan win both those games. He's been that important to the Warrington team in breaking down the Wigan defence, up the middle, behind the ruck, and just not being able to give Wigan that second. Something that Leeds couldn't do at the weekend was get behind the ruck enough. And Darrell Clarke is the best in the league at doing it, and he's tearing people apart in the process. And I would say that the success of some of the other players in the Warrington team this season is based on the ability of Clarke coming out at number 9, in my opinion anyway. We'll move on to number 6, and number 6 I think sort of fits the same criteria as Darrell Clarke. I think he's been immense this season when he's been fit, but he's also been immense in the past, and that's a very, very controversial figure, but it's Danny Brough, who I think was, obviously looked to the 2013 Huddersfield team, was instrumental in that team, and without a doubt the best player in the Huddersfield team for a number of years. He got a move back to Wakefield this season, and nobody really knew how it would go, because Wakefield were coming off the back of a really good season with Miller and Finn and Hampshire, So we didn't really know how Brough was going to fit in. Obviously, Liam Finn moved away from Wakefield and Hampshire moved back to fullback. But Brough has not only moved into the team and sort of gelled in, he's sort of become the main man again. And it gives the players like Jacob Miller and Ryan Hampshire, when they're all fit, the chances to move around the pitch that they need, which makes them even better players. And Danny Brough sort of brought that about at Wakefield. Obviously they're struggling at the minute, but that early season form that Wakefield had was very much down to Danny Brough's consistency in the middle. Much like the consistency that Huddersfield had for a number of years was much down to Danny Brough's consistency.
I think he was quite close to Austin in the Man of Steel range before he got injured, wasn't he? I think I'll be honest with you, I tipped him up about 50-1 at the start of the season, because obviously he did well. He always did well in the Albert Goldthorpe, didn't he? Which is very similar. But yeah, I think obviously the injuries has probably scuppered that. But yeah, I've not gone for Brough, but it's a great shout. It's probably another controversial one. Yeah, I do accept how good Darrell Clark is, but I went another way. Probably my favourite player in Super League. I had to fit him in the team. That's Danny Horton at Hull FC. I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's 100% every single game. His tackles. I mean, his tackle in the Challenge Cup final against Warrington, I suppose, will go down in Hull folklore. He makes plenty of yards running from dummy half. He can move the ball left and right, and like I said, there's no more fearsome tackler. He has been Man of Steel. He's been up there. I think obviously his international chances have been scuppered, because it's probably our strongest position as a nation. I think where he plays, I understand there probably are more talented players. I've not got Darrell Clark in my team, but yeah, I fully rate him as up there with another guy I'll probably appear later as the best hooker in Super League at the moment. But I can't have anything bad to say about Danny Horton. On and off the field, he's a brilliant ambassador for his club as well. I'm sure he'll be there long after his career's over. So yeah, Danny Horton.
Interesting.
It's a very interesting pick, I must say.
The two players you picked, I don't have in at all. So I don't know how we're going to do this, but again, yeah, just stick with us.
It will come.
We will.
It's a good shout though. At 6, I've actually gone for Alex Walmsley. Now, yes, it's probably another pick on current form, but again, last season injuries didn't feature, but in 2015 he was nominated for Man of Steel. And I feel like when he's fully fit and in top form, I don't feel like there's a better forward in the league. He's unstoppable, and I think they played, was it Catalans this season, and Saints actually rested quite a lot of players, and Walmsley just like single-handedly won that game. And it's not often you see a forward take charge of a game like that, but yeah, like I say, in previous years as well, he burst onto the scene. Obviously Saints got him from Batley, and probably one of the best signings for value in the history of the competition. So yeah,
it's great to see players in the Championship come to the Super League and do well. I think him getting injured last year, but had a big say on what happened towards the end of the season. I don't think there's any controversy there with Alex Walmsley, to be fair.
Well, on that note, we may as well move to number 5, because funnily enough, at number 5 is Alex Walmsley for me.
Right.
I agree with you. I think not even just for value, just based on his ability as a prop forward, he is the best prop forward in the league. When he's playing at his best, he is the best in the league, and he's extremely difficult to stop. Obviously hard to compliment St Helens players, but him and Thompson probably have the most feared partnership in the league, because either one of those two players can win games for St Helens because of the ability going forward is just that good. I think Walmsley obviously had a bit of an injury problem last season, so more of the attention went to Luke Thompson, but I feel like this season now he's back, and based on his form overall, he's probably the stronger of the two forwards for the St Helens club, and he makes my number 5 spot. I'm completely in agreement.
Well, before you say yours, Paul, I've actually gone for Jake Connor at 5. Again, you mainly said most of the things that I wanted to say about him, so I thought about putting him higher. It was influenced by his performance last week, but I just thought there's probably still a few players in the league better than him, but I just hope he goes to the NRL, to be honest. I know Hull fans don't want to hear that, but I'd love to see him in the NRL. Yeah,
I'd love to see him wind up the Aussies. I think he's got the talent to do that. I'll get into the whole Lockton controversy now. I didn't wrote it down, but that again changed my mind. Another stalwart of Super League of this decade that I've put in now is absolute regular for Warrington. Again, probably quite controversial. I think he can get into trouble on the pitch quite a lot, but he's, like I say again, a tremendous ambassador for the club off the field. But I've gone for Ben Westwood. He's quite a regular member of the dream team. He's been there a few times. I think Warrington are always a better side when he plays. There isn't a sturdier tackle. Like I say, I think sometimes he can. It pushes the limit right all the way. I think that'd probably be an understatement.
Rest, yeah.
No, but like I say, we need that in the sport. Every team needs the enforcer, and I think that's certainly Ben Westwood. So yeah, I've gone for Ben Westwood just over O'Loughlin. Probably, I think really hard to split the two. I know they're playing different positions. I was looking at when I was thinking someone like Junior Moores who I'd considered, but yeah, I like to get Ben Westwood in there, and I have done.
Fair enough. It's an interesting pick. It's not on my list.
No, it's not on mine either.
He's one of those players that the man might ask, you love him or you hate him, and Warrington fans will obviously love him, and super Benny Westwood for them. Whereas I suppose if you're a fan of rival teams, you're gonna extremely dislike him for his behaviour on the pitch, less than off the field. Off the field, he's a great ambassador for the game, but on the field, he's a very rough and tumble sort of player, and he's got himself into trouble in the past for it. So, including this season with a nice headbutt during the game. But he is that kind of player.
Definitely.
But yeah, he has been proved to be quality for Warrington over the years and been a massive part of the team. Right, we'll move on to number 4. Ben, we'll come to you first this time.
So three of my top 4 have been in Super League less than 2 seasons. When you did the overseas 13 last week, obviously you included Trent Barrett, and I feel like you couldn't leave him out because of the impact he'd had in such a short space of time, and that's perhaps influenced this pick as well. I've gone for Jackson Hastings.
Okay.
Now I feel there's not many players that could have gone into a team like Salford and made them as good as they are, and I feel like it would have to be probably one of the top, controversial again, probably one of the top 10 halves in the NRL to do that, and I'd probably have him around that bracket, and he's coming to Salford, and let's be honest, it's a fairly, on paper, a side you'd look at and you'd feel they'd be definitely in this relegation battle, and they're on the verge of it, but they're not in it, and I feel like that's down to Jackson Hastings. I mean, what else can you say about him? There's a reason Wigan and Leeds are after him. A few NRL teams that are going to be after him, and yeah, it's a no-brainer for me.
I've gone. Well, I've gone for someone in my team who's probably been here less time. I definitely considered Jackson Hastings, but I've actually the one player that's really excited me this year, and it is only a year, but it's Blake Austin. I've got him in there. Probably, I'm not sure how he fits on the other guys' criteria with him just being here this year, but he's going to be here longer. I just love watching the guy. He runs at the line. He's got pace. He makes Warrington tick. I see what the guys are saying with Clark being the best player in the team. Hooker's the most important position on the field as well. But I had to put Blake Austin in there because of the impact he's made this year. I think he's a talisman in that club already.
Yeah, and the Man of Steel ranking, the way it works this year, is a lot more clear on the consistency of players, and that you can't argue with that in part, and Austin has been immense for Warrington this year. I stick by my point that I think that Dora Clark has probably been the better player for Warrington, but I feel like a lot of his work doesn't go seen in the ranking systems. Just like for most number 9s in the league, it's very hard to get man of the match when you've got somebody that's outside that's doing the last bit of the work when you have to do the start of it. But Blake Austin has been immense this season for Warrington. Part of the reason that Warrington is so good this year as well. I have actually gone for a number 9 at number 4, and I think it would be hard to disagree that he's probably been the best number 9 in the Super League era. Maybe his predecessor was the only person that was better than him, and that's James Roby, obviously of St Helens. And Roby, obviously, internationally fantastic, domestically even better. It's an interesting one for Roby because obviously he's by Super League fans across the country, he's known as probably the best number 9 in the Super League. And then you go to St Helens and they've got the statue of Kieran Cunningham outside of Bantry Park, obviously, and he's sort of always been underneath the shadow of Kieran Cunningham, but as over the last sort of three or 4 years, it's sort of emerged and sort of built himself into his own character, and you can see that he's going to be the next big feature. And if they were going to build a statue for another person in the future, it'll probably be the two number 9s that'll stand next to each other. I think James Roby has been fantastic for the St Helens club. I've had 2 Saints players in a row, so just proving how good they've been really over the last couple of years and beyond. We'll move into our top 3 now, which is actually really interesting. I think this is where we're probably going to see players that we've seen already, for the most case, but they're all obviously top players now and top players in the past.
Yeah.
Who wants to go? Paul.
Okay, right. If we're doing this time last week, I don't think this will be quite so controversial. We're saying current Super League players. Well, obviously in the 2 weeks' time, this guy won't be a current Super League player. I've gone for Callum Watkins.
Wow.
An absolute. So again, I think the guys are going to have to decide how he fits into the criteria. I'd be quite happy to put other centres like Percival or even Michael Shenton, who's been tremendous for Castleford. He could go quite as well from St Helens, but I think Watkins has been since that Keith Senior retired, probably the best English Super League centre. He's got tremendous important tries for Leeds, like we mentioned before. That one at Wigan that still gives me nightmares in 2012 in the semi-final. Tremendous pace, decent tackler, good ball handler. He played at full-back a few times when they've needed him. He's always been there for Leeds. Obviously he's had a horrendous injury which he's getting over. We talked about him on Friday about his move to the NRL, which we all wish him well on, but I think as things stand, he's still a Super League player, so I've gone for Callum Watkins.
See, I would have included him, but for the fact that he's moving.
It's fair dues, yeah.
So again, it comes down to the criteria, and I've gone. Probably you two have gone more with players overall than I have. But I just thought if I had to pick 10 players, who would I pick? And again, someone who's not been here very long, probably the least amount out of anyone is Lachlan Coote. Now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that when Ben Barber left, I thought Saints would really struggle to replace him, but arguably, he's maybe not a better player than Barber, but he fits into the team better, and he's actually made the team better. And at the weekend, he scored, created 4 others, and again, it's that criteria. Has he been here long enough? Well, I feel like he's definitely overachieved than what people are expecting him to, and I remember watching a documentary with Jonathan Thurston actually, and they asked him who is the greatest fullback you've ever played with. Now you're thinking, well, it's Billy Slater, innit? Next question. But he said Billy Slater, but then he actually said, and I've got to mention Lachlan Coote as well. So if he can put him in the same bracket as Billy Slater, then he's got to be on this list for me.
Yeah. Lachlan Coote has been an exception for St Helens, and he's always been a favourite of mine, but until he moved to St Helens, funnily enough. It takes a special player to be able to knock Matty Bowen out of a team, and Lachlan Coote came when he was coming through at Cowboys, knocked Matty Bowen out of his position. Obviously meant that Bowen came to the Super League for Wigan, but Coote was the man that did that, and not only did that, the following season after that, they went and won the Premiership with the Cowboys, and Coote was a massive part of that team, which just proves this quality, I think. He's definitely in my opinion, one of the best fullbacks in the world of rugby. He's obviously come back from a horrendous sort of period of injury, and this is his full first season back at the top level, and but he's took it with both hands, and he's just proving it may be a controversial decision, but it's proving to me maybe how poor Ben Barber really was. He obviously won the Man of Steel, and it was immense going forward, but defensively, just so vulnerable. And Lachlan Coote's proving that you can be as good an attack as you are in defence, and still wear the number 1 shirt. And I do think that he's deserved of a place on this list. Man number 3 is Sam Tompkins, Catalans player now, obviously, but probably more famous for his time at Wigan. Man of Steel winner in 2012. I think if you look at the games between 2009 and 2013, pretty much every Wigan game, well, at least every Wigan game that he was included in, he was the most valuable player for Wigan on the pitch. it's hard to really describe him because he was so unique at the time when he was playing his best before he got his move to the NRL, and he was unplayable, he was untouchable. The way he manoeuvred, the way he could just cut in front of his number 9, and it was like, okay, it's Tompkins, you do what you want, and he'd just cut in and he'd take it from number 9 and run the length of the field, or he'd pick it up at half back and chip it over the top, or he'd come out at number 1 and make the last pass to the wing. He could do it all, and it was immense during that period. When he once came back from the NRL, it was equally as immense, but in a different way. The way that he'd learned the game whilst he'd been in the NRL. Obviously, he got a very serious knee injury during his second season in the NRL, which sort of, I think, sort of led to him coming home because he wasn't playing rugby, so he wasn't occupied, which sort of meant that he got a bit homesick. But it wasn't through lack of quality that he came home. He was playing very well in the NRL. He got a bad injury, but he came home with a new sort of mentality towards the game, knowing that he'd lost half a yard of pace, so he wasn't going to break the line as much as he used to, but he could use that to his advantage to take players out of the game and create the killer opportunity on the outside, and that's what he's doing for Catalan this season. And I think it's no surprise that Catalan have gone from a team that finish 8th to 10th, having made one major signing in Sam Tompkins, and they're up there as one of the most consistent teams in the league. And it's no coincidence for me. Sam Tompkins will match that team around the pitch as much as he possibly can. I think he's more than deserved of a place in this top 3.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, he was massive last year for Wigan as well towards the end of the year. His game management now is just tremendous, isn't it?
We'll move on to number 2 then. Ben, we'll come to you first.
See, this is where such a headache over this, thinking about it. I went to sleep last night and I was like, which way shall I go with this? And again, I just went with, if I had to pick the best 10, who would I choose? Who would I want? I kept swapping them round, but in second I actually went for James Roby as well. Consistently, probably the best player in the competition that there's been for me every season. I mean, you're talking about there's been consistent players who perform at a 7 or an 8 every week. He's at a 9 every week, funnily enough, number 9. And he's been nominated for Man of Steel I don't know how many times, and the impact he can have on a game is unreal. I think that he won Man of Steel one year and he was mainly an interchange. That's how much of an impact he can have on a game, and even now he's still doing it. So yeah, Roby for me.
My number 2 is a St Helens player that we've already mentioned. I said he was one of my favourites when he was in the NRL, and I do believe that he's he's definitely in the top 10 fullbacks in the world. I feel like he could go back to the NRL any time he wanted to, and that's Lachlan Coote. I think that if he could have come over and been wearing any shirt in the Super League, and he would still be the best fullback in the league, and he's that good. So yeah, Lachlan Coote. There's not really much more to say about him. He's just so good defensively, so good in attack. And
you really like him, don't you?
I really like him. I'm really annoyed with St Helens. He could go for any other team. But yeah, Lachlan Coote.
Good kicker as well. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I wanted to get Tompkins in my team, but I haven't done. Like I said, for all the reasons that you mentioned, that spell between 2009 and 2000 was tremendous. I think towards the end of 2013, I think Sean Wayne rested him quite a lot. So I think them kind of injuries that he's had since probably the signs of them there. For me, number 2, a guy we already spoke about already, I've gone for Alex Walmsley, and the guy's just immense. He's just colossal. Everything it's such a big part of what St Helens do. As mentioned, I think him getting injured last year, I think he'll be fine. It was pretty much not far away from the time when things started to go a bit wrong for St Helens last year. He's a massive addition this year. I can't see anyone stopping them while their main guys remain fit this year, and he certainly is one of their main guys.
Very nice. And at the top of my list, for you viewers that watch the podcast regularly, I've spoke about him so much. These two have given me both about him. I've already mentioned that he's been mentioned already, and he was in my team, but it was at the opposite side to what Ben put him, and that's Sean O'Loughlin. In my opinion, I know Kevin Sinfield's one of the great captains of Super League, obviously Paul Sculthorpe, Andy Farrell, but for me, and this probably is a little bit of bias, but I think the best captain that's been in Super League. I I feel like he's took that not only with the Wigan club but onto the international stage and took an England team to the next level and lifted trophies for both club and country. So for me, being that he's definitely in that group with Sinfield and Sculthorpe and Farrell, and he's still playing for the Wigan club, he's the number one pick for me.
Yeah, the thing that swayed my number one decision actually was when I sat up and thought about it, I was thinking if every player in Super League was playing to the best of their ability, forget current form, if every player was playing to the best of their ability on top form, who would actually be the best player in the league? And I think it's got to be Blake Austin. He's not been here long again, it's kind of a bit of a current choice. However, I'm still amazed that he's even in Super League. I remember watching him in the NRL and he was carving it up in that competition. If you'd have asked me then, do you think Blake Austin will ever be in Super League? I'd have said, well, yeah, maybe when he's 35. Mm-hmm. But for the fact that he's come over now, he's incredible. And yeah, I'm so amazed that he's here. Warrington are very lucky to have him. And it goes back to the point I was saying earlier when I was looking at Warrington's team, and I don't mean to disrespect the team, but the team isn't actually, you look at it and they've got some good strength in depth, but I feel like with Clark and then Austin, them two have really propelled them this season and are going to give them a chance of ending that hoodoo.
It's got the X factor, and that try against Wigan at Magic was just sensational.
Yeah. Who have you gone for, Paul?
Right, well, the top of my list is obviously the guy we've already gone for on there. I agree. I think Sean said about O'Loughlin, but for me, performances haven't quite been there this year. Well, this guy has, and he also has the back catalogue that O'Loughlin has. Obviously, it's Rugby. He's the one player. He always is one player from any club he could sign. Who would it be? For me, since 2010, 11, it's always been James Rugby. The guy is just immense. It makes yards for fun. The difference you can tell in the St Helens side when he's not there, it shows you how good he is. Again, he moves the ball both ways. Fearsome tackle. I think we did a strange start a few years ago. I think got quite a lot of views where I think England played a World Cup game against Fiji and Saints played Wigan. I think he'd made as many tackles in that one game as the whole of the England team in the Rugby Union International. It was just, I think, 50 odd. It's just, I mean, we've spoke about him enough, and we're going to speak him out. I'm sure more of these lists come up. But yeah, James Rugby had to be top of my list.
I find it interesting that you're like part of the Lachlan Coote fan club and you're part of the James Rugby fan club. Yeah. Are you really Wigan fans?
My love for Lachlan Coote came before he moved to St Helens. Yeah. I was so disappointed that he didn't come to Wigan. It was unbelievable, but that's the way it goes. And interestingly, we've got we've got about 25 players that make up 10 positions. So we're gonna have to have a conversation about it. We'll be back in literally. Well, you'll see it's 3 seconds. It'll be probably about 5 minutes for us. We're gonna have a little conversation about how this top 10 pans out, and we'll give you our overall list. Right. So we have come to a conclusion. Our overall list has been decided between the three of us on behalf of Serious About Rugby League. Obviously, there's a lot of players that can't make this team that we haven't even mentioned. It's just impossible to mention every single player in one podcast.
Yeah.
Which means that you guys at home are definitely going to have lists that are completely different to the one that we put out. We look forward to seeing your reaction to it. But on our list, the number 10 spot is the Warrington number 9 Darryl Clark. At number 9 is the Huddersfield winger Jermaine McGilvray. Number 8, the French prop forward Remy Casti. Number 7, not happy about that. We had a big discussion about that. Number 7 is Hull's Jake Connor. Number 6 is the Wigan and England captain Sean O'Loughlin. At number 5 is the Catalans fullback Sam Tompkins. At number 4 is the St Helens prop Alex Walmsley. Number 3 is the Warrington's halfback who's made a massive impact this season, Blake Austin. Number 2 is my favourite fullback in the league, Lachlan Coote. And then number 1, based on the fact that it was in the top 4 for every single one of us, is the long-serving number 9 James Roby. So that's our top 10. Let us know what you think of it. Please do comment with all your top 10s and all the players that you feel like we've missed out. In the meantime, please give this video a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get all the latest videos, and we'll see you next time.